Okay, the property that I bought for the compost business is great in a lot of ways. I talk about that some in the site selection video, but there are a lot of areas of this property that are not usable for the business, for production, for sales, that kind of thing. And so I've tried over the 10 years of doing this to set aside some time to make those areas, put them to use in service of the environment and ecological functions. Now this is a very typical part. You see if you look here, you see that the surface is shale. There might be a little bit of a very thin layer of soil clay that was put on. This property was owned by a company that made bricks that you probably heard of. And they scraped off all the topsoil, they scraped off all of the soft shale to make bricks, and then they left hard shale, and then came back, this is in the 90s I think, and put a very thin layer of clay on it. And the problem with that is that only a few kinds of plants can handle it and grow. In the distance you see a more diverse forest because there the soil wasn't disturbed. And a problem with that shallow soil, as you can imagine, is that when it rains, very little of that water is absorbed. A lot of it runs off. So the streams that used to exist, they're more like what we call wet weather conveyances. The water runs through and then the soil is dry. That water that's run through hasn't been filtered. And so the hydrology of the area is not as good. Okay, and so one obvious way that we can help our properties perform more ecological functions, like the hydrology, the diversity, is just to bring in more material, build up those soils that have been degraded or frankly stripped. And so you can use materials that are just not suitable for sale. Maybe you've got wood chips, maybe you're getting too many wood chips or too many leaves, and maybe like me, after you screen the overs, sure, you can use some of them again, but sometimes they're too full of rock, or anyhow, for whatever reason, you don't want to sell it. Bring it in, build up the soil, and over time, you'll get a wider diversity of plant life, bird life, and within the soil, fungi and so forth, so it can hold on to nutrients, and it can hold and filter that water, and act like a sponge, like it should be. Okay, again, you can see in the background a more diverse forest. In the foreground, different plants, that castor oil bean plants that have come up since I've added this soil. Looking back here, you see some of this as I drive down, so it's still the old, very shallow, almost non-existent kind of soil. But yeah, in this area here, I'll be planting different kinds of trees that can benefit from that soil and reestablish a more diverse forest. Okay. This whole area behind me is shaped as a rough bowl. Okay, and beyond that, and you can see some of the ridge there of the trees beyond. Beyond that, there's a ravine with what was once a blue line, always flowing stream, but after the soil was ripped off in the 80s and 90s, it doesn't always flow, right? The ecosystem was disrupted. So because of this shape, because some of this forest in the near ground does have some soil that I'm adding to, and it's got some diversity, I did not fill it in. You can see I've kind of built our facility around it so that we could maintain this, so that we could build up the soil. And you see that's what this is here that we're working on, and also in the forest that I'll show you specifically, so that this area could act like a sponge, could increase the biodiversity more. We could have more diversity of plants here as well, all with the idea of feeding that stream, feeding that ecosystem with a slow release of water. Okay, here's that same bowl-shaped mini watershed that I'm trying to help out here. And you can see a lot of this stuff, if you were to look closely, a lot of rock, yes, some good stuff, but if I were to keep screening it, it would give a substandard product, and we don't want to do that. So over the years, it's built up a lot, and then recently I spread it in here, giving a nice, 6 to 8, maybe even at times 12 inches or more of a depth. And you can see above that it's green, but that's kind of stripped bare ground from before. So I can't quite get my machine up there, but I might try and dump some material of some sort off the top as well. But even if not, this will be good. It will act as a sponge. We'll vegetate it both with trees and understory plants. And yeah, this forest is also part of that bowl. Okay, here we are inside that forest in that bowl, and you can see the tracks of my skid steer. But I've brought soil in here too, and I'll walk over here in kind of an arc around and to here. And then in other parts of the forest, I'll get in there and build up the soil as well. Now, there is some soil here. There is some diversity of tree life, but not a lot. So again, I want this to act as a big sponge for that water. And so all of this, I'm going to build up the soil. And then as you go down into this bowl and beyond, you get to that blue line stream that I'm talking about that I want to reestablish. All right, same forest, different side, so that you can see where in this bowl, this is where the water collects and goes down. Again, we want there to be more of it and for it to be a slower release. I'm gonna stumble through here, maybe pick up a few ticks. Okay, so it comes down here, and you can even see where sometimes it's washed through here. But yeah, hopefully all of this will be, like I said, a nice big sponge. Maybe if things go really well, maybe we could dig out here and have a pond here as well. But at least we want to help feed the creek that is down there, which I'll show you. Okay, here we're already seeing where we get out of the area that was scraped and down into this very large ravine. Deeper soil, different kinds of plants like these ferns, beautiful. More of the kind of forest that we expect in this this region of the world, Southern Appalachian forest. Okay, well here we are in this in the bottom of the ravine that should be a stream bed. And if we look, I'm going to turn this around. Okay, if we look, we do see that, yeah, there's moisture. Of course there's moisture. However, what this should be, and what it was up until the disruption of the property in the 70s, 80s, 90s, this should be a continuously flowing stream. There's plenty of land that that runs off into here, and that also seeps into here as far as water. So we should have a stream here. We don't. It only sometimes runs. And so a lot of our work is to try and reestablish the stream and the ponds that would be along this course. Okay, for all the talk of reforesting or increasing the diversity of the forest, remember that open areas have their value too, contiguous open areas. All this brush that you accumulate and you might feel looks junky, that provides great cover for wildlife. So please leave a lot of brush. Your turkey population will certainly increase. Even logs that you might accumulate, given some time, they're great for fungi. So diversity is what we're looking for. Dry areas, wet areas, no matter how small. Look how small this chronically wet area is, and it's a mini habitat. So yeah, think of every piece of the property you're working on that's not conducive to a business function as an opportunity to fulfill an ecosystem function.